Welcome to the June 9th, 2025 Goffstown Select Board meeting. Would you please all join me in the pledge of allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First up is the acceptance and correction of minutes of 5/19/25 and 6/2 public minutes. There were no non-public on 6/2.
I make a motion to accept the 5/19/25 public and non-public minutes.
Second.
2 seconds, I'm sorry, Jim. Motion by Mark, seconded by Jim. Any changes, any corrections? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries.
Make a motion to accept the 6/2/2025 public minutes with corrections if need be.
Second.
Motion by Mark, seconded by Jim. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, motion carries. Anybody have any announcements? I don't. I would just like to say that I did attend the 250th anniversary celebration of the 6 people who had fought at Bunker Hill yesterday. It was a great success and a good turnout, and thanks everybody for showing up. And is there anybody here for public comment? Seeing none, we'll call the fire chief up first. And this is on tab 4.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board.
Good evening.
For tonight, I got for you, you have an opportunity to do some practical skills training at 15 College Road. That was the house that we had a fire on earlier this year. We have an agreement with the owner of the property. It's the same agreement we used when we did the live fire training, with the exception of, a few minor changes. So I'm asking the board's permission to sign a release of liability for this training.
Is there any discussion with the police department as far as traffic control or anything, or will there be any problem with that?
No, we've got that driveway that we can use. We're doing all exterior training too, there won't be any interior, so. We've also got the owner on the path for his demolition permit, so.
Anybody got any questions? Seeing none? Mark, you want to make the motion?
Yep. Make a motion to authorize the fire chief to enter into and sign a release of liability for practical training, no live fires with Surratt's Corner Property Management LLC for the property located map 17, lot 176 for 15 College Road, Goffstown, New Hampshire.
Second.
Motion by Mark, seconded by Jim. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, is this something the board might be interested in having on the consent agenda for the practical training ones?
Explain to what you're talking about, Chief.
Like, just coming in for,
The only reason that for us to know is because we'll get questioned on it.
okay,
And we can answer questions if we know. If you're just out there doing something, why are there fire trucks on College Road? What's going on? We
Okay.
have the answer to just training.
all right,
So I would appreciate it, and I'm sure the rest of the board would too, to have
Not
the
a problem.
information.
okay,
All right?
thanks.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
DPW Director, Adam? Tab 5.
Good evening. Okay, I just have one item and then a quick question for you. The first item, surplus vehicles. We've gone almost a year, actually over a year, since the previous surplus auction, and we've had a number of vehicles that are now ready to be sold as a result of new police cruisers coming online and that cycle of getting the oldest or the worst condition cars offline and auctioned off without any fleet increase. So we have 4 cruisers, a couple of equipment trailers that were budgeted for replacement last year, and a small compactor unit. And and I'd like to utilize municipbid.com as we have the last few years. We've had pretty good luck with that. Just to kind of give you a sense of the revenue we can expect. These cruisers are maybe a little rougher with the transmissions than the last batch, but we were getting about 3,000, 3,300 for each of the cruisers. So those will be the big revenue generators in this auction. The two trailers probably $1,000 to $2,000 maybe, and then the compactor a couple $100 probably. It's not operable. So with your permission, I'd like to get those out on Municipid and then work with the finance department to get the titles prepared for sign and sale.
Quick question I had was on the 2020 with only 74,000 miles on it. We can't use that and do that one in rough shape, or?
It is. I think two of the three have transmission shutters, which we did have a batch there in the mid-teens. I think the 2020 has an advanced track problem, but I'm sorry, it's a 2018 has got an engine issue. Smokes, suspected engine failure, consumes oil. But the 2020, for whatever reason, I don't know if it's a COVID, quote-unquote, COVID car or not, but it's in rougher shape than some of the older ones that we still have online at DPW for myself or the engineering staff.
Anybody else? Questions? Need a motion?
I recommend authorizing the Department of Public Works to auction the surplus vehicles as described and equipment on the Municipid platform as presented. Second.
Motion by Jim, seconded by Josh. Any questions? Any further questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries.
Okay, second item, I didn't have a packet insert for you. It's more of just a question so I know how to proceed. We've got an effort ongoing at DPW to look at upgrading our departmental logo. And as we started to sort of narrow down what style and kind of elements we'd want in our department logo, we noticed that a lot of cities and towns seem to be going to a model where the town logo is then incorporated in each department logo to some degree with only minor changes amongst the departments. Although our logo is pretty well known, our town seal, I should say, is pretty well known, it's a tough one for embroidery or small decals or decals for the vehicles because it's so detailed with the various items that you know are on there. So before we went too far down the road with trying to come up with a new DPW logo to present to you folks, I wanted to see if the board had any inclination at all to look at the town seal in the next few years. And if you did, I could hold off and table this idea. And if you're comfortable with the town seal as is, we can always go forward for a logo update. I just didn't want to get a new DPW logo and then a year later have a new town seal that we want to, shift gears again.
Go ahead, Mike.
Kind of seemed just like yesterday, we had discussion with the board on the town seal. There was, 3 or 4 of them that we had to pick from, and we took this one.
Yes, yep.
So this is,
So this is more the vector graphic that's easier,
Yeah.
but like Adam
Yeah.
said, when it comes to embroidery, it's a little bit difficult. Adam asked me for my thoughts. I said with the state moving towards removing Hadley Fall Dam, at that time, the board may wish to revisit the town seal, but whatever the board's pleasure is.
I'd like to leave the Hadley Falls Dam is part of history of the town. Been here for so long.
Well, that's something that can be
Yeah.
discussed, I think, at
Yep, later date.
a later date, but I understand it. This is, like you say, this is a difficult logo to try to embroider. I'm not objecting to have something close to it, where that signifies DPW or Goffstown Public Works.
I would-
Anybody?
I would say make it and bring it to us, and we can have a discussion.
Is that okay?
Totally works for me, yeah. We
All
can
right. You guys all
bring
set with
some
that?
ideas.
Yep.
Okay, let's move on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jack, you got something you can do for 5 minutes?
Yeah, or you could maybe have Rick come up and do what he's trying to do.
Sure, Rick, why don't you come up? I don't know if Rick gonna do anything in 5 minutes,
I was just gonna say, 5 minutes, okay. That's great. That's great. I can go finish dinner. No. I am here before you tonight to bring up the process of developing a parking ordinance for Barnard Park and the recreation building. To give you some back history, I won't be able to do it in 5 minutes, but well, I got here in 2010, and prior to me, the department allowed 15 parking spaces at Barnard Park. And they were given and I have to kind of laugh.
For the high school, you said.
High school students.
Right.
Let me rephrase this. I'm sorry, thank you. This is for high school students, and it's really only during the school season. So historically, for whatever reason, they always had a problem, not enough parking. So the department back many years said, we'll allow 15 students to park via a permit at Barnard Park. And there was signage there, you know, that said per the selectmen at that time, this was allowed and everything from there. Since my arrival in 2010, the volume of parking needs has been escalating. And I want to say the last 3 years, it's really gotten pretty bad. And when I'm saying this, what we did is we saw the need growing and growing. So we probably in 2012, 2013, we allowed 10 spots to park at the recreation building. Okay? And then 15 over at Barnard. Then we increased up to 25 over at Barnard and still kept it 10. In doing this, we never really had an ordinance for this, to do this. Now we're in a position where we're finding at the recreation building, we got 28 folks, elderly folks that are coming in for bone builders every Monday and Wednesday, and they don't have a place to park, because now we're getting inundated with parking. We've tried to, you know, basically say, hey, you know, we give these 10 spots here, 25 spots there, you know, please don't park here, it goes on deaf ears. And at the Barnard Park area, with pickleball being as big as it is, you got probably a good 15, 20, 25 people just playing pickleball. They're there from, you know, say 9 to noon, 3-hour time frame, something like that. Then you got people using the track, you got people using the playground area. So that volume of public use is high. And we're at the point now where the volume of students parking there is kind of encroaching upon the other public use. It is a public park, you're right. But we're at the point now where we need to come up with an ordinance.
So it's my understanding then that there's 50 spaces at Barnard.
There's 50 at Barnard, yeah.
Okay, and you allowed 25 of them for the
Half,
school?
yep.
Half of them. And are they exceeding that?
Oh, God, yeah. And we have no way to control it.
Exactly.
We have absolutely no way to control it. What I've been doing is going over, Mike Coretta's been going over and saying, hey, you know, you guys can't park here. And we're just getting berated by a young high school kid berating me.
Josh, you had some?
Yeah, I live close by the park, and I can tell you that the volume's increased significantly,
Yeah.
especially in the morning. How many spaces do we know the high school currently has at their facility?
I don't know that information, we can get that for you.
Is the high school charging the same for the spaces that they have at the park as they are for the high school?
I'm not sure. I think, I know we were charging $55. And quite frankly, charging the fee is, to me, irrelevant. I mean, that's not the problem. The problem is the respect of controlling the volume of the people there. Whatever the fee is the fee. I mean, that's totally irrelevant.
Well, is some relevance to it. Are you getting the money, or is the high school getting the money?
Well, right now, we're getting, what we get for those 25 comes into us. Yes, that's it.
That comes from the high school?
No, it comes from a student, a family that's gonna park there.
It's the private citizens who,
We are totally separate. We are not even
So they're
mingled together.
paying the Parks and Rec directly?
Yeah,
Okay, so they're not paying the high school?
Right.
correct.
Okay. So we've committed to that. For the extra spaces that are coming in, are we getting paid for those, or are people just showing up?
No, they're just showing up.
Yeah, there's a problem.
Well, yeah, that's what he's here
That's,
for. I'm
and
gonna
it's
have
not, to me, it's not even the thing about the money. The money is, I'm sorry, you guys think money, but that's irrelevant.
I'm not thinking of money, I'm
It's
thinking
the
about the
space.
convenience to the people
Yeah.
who have to park.
Yeah,
And they have a right to park there also,
right.
at your building and at Barnard.
They
And they
do.
need to be, I need to stop Rick, we have a 6:15 public hearing scheduled.
I'll come back.
Can you
Want me to come
step-
back?
or- Yeah, just step back a minute and
Sure.
then we'll call you back up. All right, tonight we have two public hearings scheduled pursuant to RSA 41:14-A. The Goffstown Select Board is conducting a public hearing to accept public input pertaining to the town acquiring an executionary interest in a 53-acre conservation easement located on 245 Patty Hill Road, tax map 7, lot 58, owned by the Shost Revocable Trust. A second public hearing is scheduled for Monday, 6/23, 6:15. The Select Board is scheduled to vote on the proposal on 6/30 at 25. I'll read the background just so everybody knows if there are any questions that we can ask David. On 5/22/25, the planning board voted to the Select Board that the town move forward with the executionary interest in the Sugar Bush Farm easement that is located map 7 lot 85 located 245 Patty Hill Road, with the conservation easement being deeded to the Society for the Protection of New Hampshire Forests. Conservation Commission commented on 5/28. The Conservation Commission voted to recommend to the Select Board that the town move forward with the interest in Sugar Bush Farm easement that is located on map 7 lot 85 located 245 Patty Hill Road, with the conservation easement being deeded to the Society for the Protection of New Hampshire. The draft conservation easement was included in the board's 5/12 packet. Is there anybody here from the public that would like to speak to this? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next one. We'll close that public hearing. The next public hearing is pursuant to RSA 41:14-A. The Goffstown Select Board has conducted its public hearing to accept public input pertaining to the town granted an easement to the Public Service Company of New Hampshire to allow electrical power across the town-owned rail trail, tax map 19, lot 47-6, to provide electrical services to 186 Mass Road, tax map 5, lot 49, owned by Nunick Holdings LLC. Second public hearing is scheduled for Monday, 6/23/25 at 6:15 p.m. The Select Board is scheduled to vote on this proposed acquisition on 6/30 at 25. Planning Board, Planning Board voted on 5/8/25, voted to recommend the Select Board grant the easement. Conservation Commission also on 5/28/25, Conservation Commission voted to recommend the Select Board to grant the easement, 20-foot wide easement to Eversource for crossing the rail trail to an area off Mass Road, Sparkle Court, near map 5, lot 49, to locate a new utility pole. The Planning Board approved the site for this project on 4/11/24. The Select Board approved the permanent easement for driveway across the rail trail on 7/10/23. Is there anybody here to speak to this easement, to this public hearing? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing, and again, it'll be continued on at the dates I said. Back up, Rick. You all set with that, Derek?
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead,
While David's here, it's on the first public hearing.
go ahead.
Just a couple of, I was looking at the cost of obtaining the conservation easement, and there's a $15,000 charge for stewardship. I'm curious of what that is.
Yes, David Beaman, Conservation Commission. That is for the permanent protection in perpetuity. They will do all the stewardship forever.
What's the stewardship? What do you mean?
Well, the stewardship means that every year or every 2 years, it depends on the property, they will go out and inspect it. They will walk the boundaries, make sure there's been no infringement. They will make sure that all the terms of the conservation easement are in effect. If the easement is being violated, then they will bring action to restore it, to make sure that that's the case. They will, it's a significant effort, and they keep a stewardship fund. It's like one fund for the whole organization. So whenever a project is done, the stewardship portion then goes into that growing stewardship fund as the number of properties grow. And it's a big fund because they have thousands or hundreds of easements all across the state, and they're doing the stewardship forever, in perpetuity.
Thank you for that. And yeah, following that, the 90,000 town of Goffstown, LUCT Conservation Fund, that 90,000 I assume is there and ready to go?
Yes, it is. There's, I mean, the last statement I saw, the fund balance was over 330,000. So plus whatever interest has come in or deposited since then.
And the nearly $7,000 in private fundraising, you're not worried about that?
No, that was private fundraising that the Forest Society did.
Oh, it's
And
already
also
done?
the other grant applications were submitted by the Forest Society. They did all the work for that, so the $250,000 from the USDA, the $150,000 from LCHIP, the $30,000 from this place, and the Merrimack Partnership, just under $7,000 from them.
Thank you, I'm sorry to...
No, no
take it-
problem. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you, thanks.
Call Rick back up. Back at tab 7.
I think when I look at this parking ordinance, it's trying to find a balance. You know, it's I mean, even at like the recreation building itself, you have the rail trail right there, you have and people will load a kayak, canoe in and out of the water, that kind of thing. So they get a lot of public use at the same time. And totally understand if, you know, there's not enough spaces at the school, if we can help, great, we can help. But I think we just gotta find this balance. And I think the 25 at Barnard is the balance.
So, if you did away with parking at Parks and Rec and just gave them the spots at the 25 spots at Barnard, that's what you're asking for?
Yes. And, you know, the supervision of it all obviously will be via the police department, because we'll actually have a town ordinance. We will have to actually get some signage made, you know, and post these at the certain locations, and do our diligence on that side. We'll have to do our diligence on educating the public correctly and getting that out there the best we can. And the PD will be the responsible agency to enforce.
And you will do the permitting?
Yeah, we would do, just like we're doing now.
Okay.
You know, the way we do it right now, it's a first come, first serve, and I don't think you'll ever have a good way of doing that, because I don't know how, I mean, I hear it all the time, you know, well, I didn't know about this. Well, this is how we get the information out. It's out in this, you know, put it in this newspaper, put it over here, put it over. You're never gonna cover all the angles. So we're still gonna get banged up a bit, I'm sure, but first come, first serve.
So your intention would be big sign parking by permit only?
We have to get the details, I have to get let me re-say that. Speaking with Eric and probably Adam on that one a little bit too, since Adam's the sign guy.
Didn't think you learned to throw him under the bus.
No,
Go ahead.
no, I mean, I have to take all the ownership, and I'm fine with
I
that.
get it.
But I think, yes, Peter, we'd have to figure out language and all that stuff.
So, Rick, you're handing out the permits now.
Yes.
I think $55 is too low. I think it needs to be 100,
That's
because
yours.
that's what they're charging at the high school.
Mine.
The high school's charging
Mine's
$125
$125.
now, but I think Rick's
mine doesn't have
proposal
Go ahead.
is to actually drop it to zero
Zero.
for Parks
Zero.
and Rec.
But why 0?
It was mine. Sorry.
I don't have a good rational reason for it. All right?
Right.
My rational reason is, to me, it's 25 spaces.
Yeah, I get it's 25 spaces, and I get the people are gonna come first served.
It's a public park. How do you have the right to charge for a public park to park?
Because these are high school students that are trying to get to high school. Otherwise, I think either we say we do it completely 3 hours, like, and that's everybody there, and you basically don't allow high school students to park there for extended period of time, and they park over at the high school, or you charge them amount that's the same as what the high schools charge.
You're gonna be losing, high school students are gonna be losing 25 and 15, what are you at your price? At park, at?
55. To park
No, no,
price,
no.
dollar-wise?
Spots.
How many
How many
spaces?
spaces? Spaces. There's, you're losing 10, we're not changing, the recreation building is gonna be 0 people parking there.
But you're gonna be,
And that's 10 spaces that are gone.
right, and if you, if you were to eliminate the parking over there, they're gonna be losing 35 spots. If you, 25.
All in all,
All in all, they'd be losing 35 spots,
all in all.
and that's a lot for them to be losing.
Is it just seniors parking in the,
Mark, it's everybody.
It's everybody.
okay, but,
It's everybody.
Yeah, but the seniors are supposed to get priority.
that's right.
the high
That's where I'm going
Oh,
next.
what do you mean? Hold on a minute. I'm in population,
Yeah,
okay?
I'm-
You're
I'm-
talking high
I'm
school
shifting-
kids.
I'm shifting gears to the high school. Seniors are the only ones that are allowed to park in the
I don't know the
parking lots?
ruling of
I
all
can-
that.
Jeff, go ahead, Charlie.
So what they do is eligible, seniors and juniors are eligible to get a parking pass. The way they do a sign up is they have a certain number of parking passes. Seniors have day one, they can go and sign up, and then on day two, juniors and seniors can go and sign up. So
And
it's
there's a line.
primarily for senior students, but there are juniors that are able to get parking
And
passes.
then on top of that, you'll get the new fresh 16-year-olds who eventually get a license from anywhere from October till June.
Yep.
Yeah, but I mean,
And everybody has a car.
we're talking about what's allowed at the high school, how many spots, which we can find out.
So I just looked on Google Maps, it looks like the back parking lot is about 200. They've got about 200, maybe 225 spaces back there.
And then you have staff park in the front. is that
In the
what they
front,
do?
yes, yeah.
Yeah, but you get students that park in the front too.
Yep.
Yeah, I just,
Yeah. So they're not really following the rules across the board there.
well, I think it's something we need to talk about. We have to have a public hearing on it too, anyway. It's an ordinance.
Yes, you'd need to have 2 public hearings
Right.
on it and then a vote on a 3rd meeting.
Right.
So if you did want to move forward with this, our recommendation would be the 2 meetings in July for your public hearings with a vote in August. That gives enough time to at least get word out and some signage up that there are going to be some changes coming this year.
Okay, and I would recommend that you make sure you go over this with Eric.
Yeah.
Let's make sure how you.
Eric's kinda already gone.
Eric's already gone through the ordinance. He was planning
He
on
couldn't
being
make it
here
tonight,
tonight, but he had a change that came up. But he said he'd be able to talk on this at the public hearing. He'd be able to speak on what their approach for enforcement would be.
Thanks, and I suggest we go ahead with the public hearing schedule. Let me just propose. Anybody got anything else? Nope. Go ahead.
I got one question. Would you have to reline a certain area if you kept like the 25 spaces and say these are the ones dedicated to it?
I guess there's a couple different ways that we're gonna have to look at that. I mean, do we, in those 25 spaces, just bang, create signage right in that space, like parking here only for GHS permitted student during school hour, or school season, school hours? Do you put a number, I would say you do the sign, because come winter, at least the sign's there.
You lose.
But
Put
then
a
again-
time 7 to 3,
But
or?
then again, the sign, I don't know, because plowing and all that stuff, it could become a nightmare. Is that
Plus you have football practice and other people going.
Well, that's after
But I'm just saying, do you
school
need to
hours.
put hours on there,
Yes. So you would say, this would only be
7 to 3 or whatever?
7 to 3.
Right.
7 to 3, and only from September to second week of June, and that is it.
Okay.
It's
And all,
just-
and all other spaces would have a 3-hour time limit.
And what we've kind of looked at is that 3-hour mark. It seems like if somebody's gonna go and play tennis or pickleball. It's a good couple hours, maybe 3 hours that they'll hang and do that. Somebody that's a track runner, it might be an hour, hour and a half, you know, that kind of thing.
Well, how about if somebody wants to sit at the pool all day?
It's not, doesn't matter.
The pool's not
It's out of
open
the
when
season.
school's in
Okay,
session.
oh, that's right, that's
It's out of
true.
the season.
That's right. So it wasn't
So,
that.
no. So,
I'm just concerned about the 3-hour signs, if you had 3-hour parking.
well, people might wig out and, you know, it might be, you know, August and they're looking at the sign and say, I can't park here. Well, you gotta read it and listen, you know, I mean,
All right.
I get that. And the only one I think that legitimately is somebody that might be in the playground and then hanging out, that might be a little more than 3 hours, truthfully. Somebody that comes to the recreation building. You know, somebody comes there, they're gonna go run the rail trail, come back. That's not gonna be more, that's a 5 mile out and back, that's not gonna be 3 hours. Rides a bike, so I think that the 3 hours is kind of pretty good. The only one that may lose in that at the rec building is somebody that might go paddleboarding. I mean, maybe paddleboarding on the lake might be longer than 3 hours. But, I mean, that's kind of how we looked at the whole thing.
Is there any way, and I'm just, curiosity is, in the summer months, it's not a problem, right?
No.
Okay, so only when it's during school season?
The only issue we have is between 7 AM and 3 PM.
Okay, no, I just wanted to make sure there's
And
no
that's
other
from
time.
September to June.
Right.
Because they had to put signs up on our street a while ago, because students were
Yeah,
parking up on the streets.
Yeah,
And
I
this
know
is
all about that
not-
one.
But this is kind of the history of
Yeah.
it, is back then, okay, population, here's who you are, now we're in 2025, everybody has a car, so it's the same evolution of what we're going through. So that's what we're looking at. It's the same thing.
Okay, so let's just go ahead with
Okay, we've scheduled
Yep.
public.
meeting schedules that we talked about.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rick.
Derek, you're up.
Okay, at tab 8A, you have your committee meeting scheduled for the next 2 weeks. Tomorrow night at 6 PM, the sewer commission's in this room.
Yep.
Wednesday at 10 AM, Highway Safety Committee will meet.
Yep.
And Thursday at 7 PM, the planning board will meet. Next week, Wednesday, 6 PM, Goffstown River Advisory Committee will get together. At 6:30, Library Board of Trustees at the library.
I don't know if there actually is a meeting that day, actually.
Okay, I can double check and get back to you on that. It was on their website, but maybe,
Because this was the first, and maybe not first and third.
there is a
Oh, there is?
meeting?
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. And then Wednesday, 7 PM will be Parks and Rec Commission.
Yep.
And then just a reminder, next Thursday, most town offices will be closed in observance of Juneteenth, including the DPW transfer station. Thursday and Friday, curbside routes will be collected 1 day late, and we'll make sure to get that information up on the town website and our social media. Your next page, you have your consent agenda. You have employee status reports, retirement of a full-time dispatcher, resignation of a seasonal police crossing guard. You have 2 seasonal DPW laborers, new hires. You have 1 per diem firefighter 2 AMT. This is a promotion from AEMT. You have all the ESRs from our seasonal Parks and Rec staff. You have a rehire of 1 seasonal groundkeeper, rehire of a head summer camp counselor. You have 4 summer counselor 2s, all rehires, 1 counselor 1 rehire, 1 counselor in training, this is a new hire, 1 summer laborer rehire, 1 summer lifeguard 3 rehire, and then 3 lifeguard 1s new hires. You have a memorandum of understanding between the New England Police Benevolent Union, Local 24 and Town of Goffstown. This is in regards to sick leave. You have a grievance settlement between the Town of Goffstown and New England Police Benevolent Union. You have event permits for the Goffstown Gallop on June 28th, and then the Goffstown Police Department's National Night Out Block Party on August 5th. And then you have a right to inter at West Lawn Cemetery, Section 1998, Lot 245 and Lot 246.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Any questions, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Motion carries.
On your next page, you have assessor's recommendations. You have a land use change tax and land use change tax warrant that the assessor recommends approval on map 4, lot 20-1. And then you also have a request to allow the submission of a late elderly exemption. This is allowed under RSA 72:33 when it's the timely submission is prevented by accident, mistake, or misfortune. The assessors provided no recommendation on that, but if everyone got a chance to read that memo in their packet, it explains behind that.
Motion to approve the assessor's recommendation as presented this evening.
Second.
Motion by Mark, seconded by Jim. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, motion carries.
At your next page, you have recommendation for volunteer appointments. The first, the Goffstown Planning Board recommends appointment of Jacob LaFontaine to serve as one of the town's representatives to Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission. And then the Parks and Rec Commission recommends appointment of James Helene as an alternate member.
I'll make a motion to appoint Jacob LaFontaine as a representative to the Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission with a term expiring June 30th, 2028.
Second.
Motion by Josh, seconded by Jim. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, motion carries. Next.
Make a motion to appoint James Helene as an alternate member of the Goffstown Parks and Recreation Commission with a term expiring March 31st, 2028.
Second.
Motion by Josh, seconded by Mark. Any questions, discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, motion carries.
At your next page, you have a memo regards to the town's investment policy. This is reviewed annually. No changes in the investment strategy are recommended at this time. There was one typographical error in which select board was written as selectmen. So we would just ask for an update of that. And then we can answer any questions you may have.
You don't need a motion on that one?
I would appreciate a motion since you would be technically amending the policy for that one typographical.
I'll make a motion, we correct the spelling language. What page is it on?
It's on page 2, and I'd ask you to readopt the policy with that change.
And then readopt the policy with the changes being made to read Select Board.
Second, and I have a question.
Okay. Motion by Mark, seconded by Jim. Any questions?
The policy states that any and all foreign investments are unauthorized by the town. Do you know why that is?
So Danielle can maybe speak to this a little bit more, but anything that we are allowed to invest in comes right out of state law and what state law allows us to do.
So the answer is that's the law.
Yeah, the law.
Pretty much, yeah, that's the short answer for sure. The state RSAs are really strict about the investment options because they don't want public funds being able to go into things that would be a little bit less secure. So there are strict guidelines on where we're allowed to deposit. That's why the public deposit pool is so heavily regulated as well.
It's probably also because of foreign influence.
Well, yeah, but I was thinking more international corporations and what qualifies as a foreign investment. But if state law says we can't do it, then I guess there's no sense in talking about it.
Right, so the trustees of the trust funds are able to still have investments in stocks, which do, stock portfolios may contain international groups, but again, they have to be very conservative in what those are. So a lot of times you see them mirroring like the S&P 500 or some other well-established exchange.
All right, thank you.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Any further questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, motion carries.
Thank you. At tab 8F, you have a memo. At town meeting this year, there was a petition article directing the town to post the check register on the town website. The warrant language is non-statutory and is advisory only. However, this was a petition article that the select board voted to recommend, and it did have a very 74% approval of voters. So what you have in your packet is you have 3 different report types from our financial software. The first is the accounts payable warrant report. This is what you see every week and sign off on. We also have the accounts payable cash disbursement journal and the accounts payable check reconciliation register. It's really our recommendation after talking with our bank. The bank recommends against releasing our sequential check numbers with dates of issue and amount because that could lead to increased risk of fraud. So our recommendation would be to use the accounts payable warrant, which we're already producing, and to start posting that on the town website. That also provides a little additional information because it has the general ledger account for where things are being expensed. So it has a little bit more information than the other 2 reports that we have.
What are the exact numbers on the account detail?
And what were I'm sorry, what was the question?
So this is the one you're recommending?
Yeah, the very first one, it starts on page 26, and that's where it has every invoice on there and which GL account it's going to and the amount. So,
Where it says account detail, you have those numbers there. What is that given the account?
that's
So-
giving our general ledger account, not the bank account. So that's the number that we use on all of our budget reports that we post monthly on the website, as well as what we present to the budget committee. That's the detail
So
line.
it has nothing to do with the account number itself?
Correct.
This report's also helpful because right to the right of the account detail number that you see, it gives you a simple description for it. So library is the 5501 with the 4 zeros, and then the facility maintenance corresponds to the last 5 digits. So it kind of helps people decipher it as well, even if they don't have that budget report handy.
Do we give out today already the bank that we use?
Is the bank that we use public, is that what you're asking?
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, we're customers of
Public
Citizens Bank,
information.
so.
The problem with this is I can see phone calls saying, you know, what did you spend? What was that $285 for? Because it doesn't tell you, it tells you the amount of the check and what department it spent and where it was going, but it doesn't tell you what it was for.
Correct.
So somebody could technically say, well, you got solid waste fleet maintenance, check total was $600. What's that for? This is what this is going to create, a lot of questions like that.
Yeah, we can create a tracking sheet to see if that's a concern, if that becomes a big use of staff time. I know the state of New Hampshire, they have open checkbook where you actually pay the software vendor to develop something where people can do simple queries and you put certain information out there. But that's something more of a software solution, but I don't know how much of a problem it will be, to be honest with you.
Yeah, so, maybe I'll say it out loud. Before I went on vacation, I had to deal with check fraud recently, so I want to be very cognizant of what we're dealing with here, because what I found out recently is my own bank had no responsibility in the process of the check fraud. Basically, somebody else on the other side, the other bank supposedly had the responsibility of check fraud. So I think us giving out check numbers, very bad idea. So like, I agree with that. Let's not do it at all. But I also think we need to be cognizant of some of the things that we're putting on here as well.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
May I ask a question?
Go ahead, Josh, did you done, Josh?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Rick.
I'm sorry. Excuse me. On this thing right here, so in our world, we have referees, scorekeepers, things like that. So is their name Rick Wilhelmi going to be present? And then Rick Wilhelmi got paid $8 to do the scorebook? So
Yes.
that's going to be present?
Yes, and we understand that you employ minors, but they are consultants, they're, so their names would be.
Okay, I'm just throwing that out there.
Yep.
But that is PII. Like,
Their names?
their names can be an association. We should double check that.
We can definitely double check it, but, I mean,
Right,
right now,
yeah.
if somebody came in and asked for the AP that you are signing off on weekly, we would make them a copy and charge them, whatever the
So-
copy fees are.
So this is nothing that anybody can't get a rate.
Correct.
this first one.
Correct, it was just we would start publishing it and pushing it to the website.
When did you want to start that, or when should we start that?
So what we could do is we could go back to the vote of town meeting, and our financial software saves all the reports, and all we have to do is just spit them out and give them to IT, and they'll post them up there.
How much more work is this going to create?
To do this, again, we're creating this report, and we print it out and put it with all the invoices that you review. We already have it as a PDF, it's simply the 10 minutes to have somebody.
Okay, so it's not costing us anything?
No, it's not, this is not a significant asset. Like I said, we can create a log, a shared log, that way if we start getting inundated with questions, then we can start tracking that data.
Anybody else? Josh, you got any more questions?
No,
I just think we need to keep an eye on it, that's for sure.
100%.
I don't like it, I think it's just gonna create more work. You say it's not, but if I go on there and I say, you know, why do we buy, what's this $1,600 technical from such and such? What did we buy? I mean, is there information that could be asked that they shouldn't have?
Not that I can, this right here is really payment amounts, AP payment amounts to which vendors and how they're being coded to our general ledger.
So when we have a bill for a background check, I won't have anybody's name on it.
No, it
No.
doesn't have descriptions.
It's,
Okay. But they could, if they call and say, what was this for, what would our answer be?
We would say it's for an employment background, but we don't release the name.
Okay.
and I don't think we put that level, we don't put that detail into our financial software either.
So I do see check and then some number next to it.
So we have 3 different reports here. So there is one with a check amount. The warrant is created before we even, before the system even generates checks, so it does not have the check numbers on there.
Okay.
So you're just talking about
Yeah, those
doing
are
the
some of the
first one?
examples.
The
The first
first,
report?
yeah, I think it starts at page 26 and
Goes to
goes,
40?
yeah, it's a pretty long report.
Goes to 45, I believe.
Right.
Yep,
yeah.
that's
So
what-
from page 40 to 45 is the report that they're talking about doing.
yeah, it actually goes to 48, because then at the end, it's
Oh,
got
okay,
like
yeah.
a summary where it details all the expense accounts that are being hit.
Right. So let's go with that plan. I read some questions you want answered, but I think we need to go with this plan.
Okay? And if you could just take a vote, because again,
Yep.
there's nothing in state law saying that we have to do this, but this board did support that petition article, and
Absolutely.
it did pass, so that's what we wanted to bring back.
I'll make a motion to support that we go with the accounts payable warrant report, assuming that none of the information in here contains PII.
Second.
Motion by Josh, seconded by Richard. Any further questions? My only statement, the only thing I'm concerned about is having people's names in there, like Rick was talking about.
We will
For
check with
minors.
the attorney if
Yeah,
they,
that's-
if that's protected, that we should be redacting before posting.
I know we can't even,
Can we just redact it anyway? Because we don't have to do this at all, right?
Well, I would say if you're going to do that, you're creating work because you're having
yeah.
somebody redact it. And if we find out that, that certain vendors, because of, for whatever reason, it is PII and it needs to be redacted, we'll bring that back to you and see if you still want to do this report.
Or the fact that it's a minor's name. So I think those are the two conditions.
well, I don't think you, just because somebody's a minor, then you're writing them a check. I mean, I'm not sure how that works. You're gonna find out.
We'll find out.
I want the answers to that.
Yep.
Don't do anything until you have that.
Okay.
Is that fair?
that motion?
Huh?
No, it's, no, you
We
haven't
have-
voted
So
on
should
it.
we table it until we get that information?
If
We
you
can
did-
do that. We can table. Motion, you making a motion to table?
Yeah, yes.
I'll second his motion.
It doesn't have to be voted on this table. Next.
Yes, at 8G, you have a bid award recommendation. This is for energy procurement services. They noted a thorough explanation in the packet, but can answer any questions that you might have. This was approved by the board on April 28th. and the bid window closed on May 30th. The town did receive 2 bids, and the recommendation is to go with Competitive Energy Solutions out of Portland, Maine.
That didn't make sense to me when I looked at this. Just the second bid made no sense. It's not even, I mean, completely opposite, I mean, different. I don't get it. Now, can you explain the second bid, or is it?
Sure. They're just going off of how many hours that they anticipate their staff's gonna use in a year and coming up with a flat contract price. So the second bidder put in 40,000 as a flat price per year for any and all consulting. And then they did have an hourly rate if additional hours were to be accrued on top of that, for whether it's meetings or reporting requests. I think that is far beyond what we had in mind when we went out to bid for these types of services, and that's part of what led the recommendation to be bidder 1 in this case, where they're tying the effort to a small fee that gets added to the price per units that you actually purchase through them.
And bid 1 is effective when?
It's effective as the contracts come up, so every time that our energy contract needs to be renewed, they would go out, they would solicit bids, they would feel out the market, they would come back with recommendations, saying you could do a 12-month, 2-year, 3-year, whatever, and then we actually bring those forward to the select board to choose. So you still award those bids like you do now, but you get much better information, plus they can pool us with other people who are bidding at the same time.
On the number 1, it says estimated 2025 cost partial year. When was this anticipated to start this?
I was using the current contract expirations that you see in the second to last column there. So understanding that our gas and diesel are coming up at the end of September of this year, I expect that we would be using the new fuel sources under this vendor for the last 3 months of this year.
Okay.
And so I kind of did an estimate on how much fuel we would need for 3 months, and that's how I came up with.
Okay, I get it.
Yeah.
Anybody got any other questions? Motion?
I'll move that we award the bid for energy procurement consulting services to Competitive Energy Services of Portland, Maine, and to authorize the town administrator to enter into a contract for energy consulting services.
Second.
Motion by Jim, seconded by Mark. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Motion carries. And we have our old business. Anything, when are we going to do the number 1?
It's in process right now. The police chief has been meeting with the vendor on that, and I can get a contract ready.
And then we're still waiting for TAP grant.
Yes, we have not heard from that. They will notify the DPW director, as he was the primary contact on that grant.
Parks and Recs 23 is out for service, Capone warranty.
Yeah, this was a similar issue that one of the DPW vehicles had, so it is still under warranty, so subject for Capone to be worked on. And I did just get handed a note, the sewer commission meeting for tomorrow night has been canceled, so.
Okay, any new business before the board?
Yeah, I'd like to discuss quarterly reports and for budgets, department heads. We should start doing those, I think.
Expand.
I'd like to see where we are in the budgets quarterly throughout the year, like with the department heads, to make sure that we're on track, so that way we don't go over budget.
Okay, we can do that. I'm not sure what you mean with the department heads. We can do that on our own, almost on a monthly basis if you wanted to, because that's what we used to get them. Budget committee gets them.
They're online monthly.
Yeah.
Sure, they're on monthly, but I think the department heads should own the budget to be able to explain whether or not we should do something hold back on something else specifically around roads or anything else like that. Because we may find that we have an increased cost in, let's say, material or something like that, which means you have to alter the plan.
So you want to call them in once a month?
I didn't say once a month, I think
Once
quarterly,
a quarter?
I think quarterly should be fine. I think once a month would be too much.
No, I don't have a problem with once a quarter. I mean, I don't really know if it's necessary. I think we should be able to just look at the reports ourselves. That gives you, you look at it and you figure out, okay, we're 30% through the year, but we're 50% spent in the budget. You want to be able to say, what are you going to do? And just because I've done the budget for 20 years now, I kind of know how it works. But if that's what you want to do, it's up to the board. I would think what you would do if we're going to do that, we wouldn't bring them all in at one night, because then we'll be here till midnight trying to go through the budgets. I would think you could, there's another way to do it, and that is get your quarterly reports, you go through it, ask the questions, email them the questions, and then they give you the answers. There's lots of ways to do it. We've done it all. Derek, when was the last time we did actual budget reports on? We used to do it in paper. We looked at them.
Yeah, so different select board have done different things. Department heads have, some boards did, whether it was the second meeting of each month, you'd actually have them come in and give, and it wasn't really a budget report, it was more just a narrative of what's going on in their department. Many years ago, select board were assigned a separate department, and they would meet with the department head, and then the actual select board would come in and report on that. And then we've had others do written quarterly reports. So it's really, department heads would need to know what information, is it strictly the money? Is it strictly, budget to actuals where we're tracking? Is there other information you're looking for? What information is the board would find useful if you're going to do
I
that?
think budget to actuals is something that we need to at least evaluate, and if we see that we're trending over, then there should be a discussion about why we're trending over or what we're going to do about it. I don't want to make it complicated, like, it doesn't need to be a line by line.
Well, that's how you look at it, line by line. Rich has looked at the reports. You've seen the reports.
Yes, yes.
And it gives you, the percentage used. It tells you, you take like the salt line, okay? Well, the salt line, we may fill up our barn in February, right? And use 60% of the budget. So you look at it and say, here, February, we're already 60% spent, when really it's in the barn, and we got it, so we get the weird ice storm in October or something, it's there. So, I mean, and I think that's what the information you're looking for.
To a point, yeah, and I want to know if we're going ahead, like, if we're spending too much on the roads or whatever, and like, we haven't hit all the roads that we need to, are we going to actually do them, or are we going to end up going over budget? So we agreed that we're going to spend $300K, at the last meeting. We need to make sure that we're not going to go over now.
We didn't increase the budget, we just rearranged the priorities.
We did. We rearranged the priorities, which means that we should be hitting these priorities and making sure that we're staying
Well,
within.
that's still, think about it, that still doesn't, we look at stuff at today's prices. Adam, and we've been caught where the prices go up all of a sudden, but now I think we're starting with the way we're doing receiving our bills on that particular thing has changed, and we can keep it, we know better where our costs are. We didn't get hit with a price increase and then got our bill 4 months later, So I think that's working, but I'm not opposed to doing that. If you want to bring them, I wouldn't bring them all in at once. I'd probably bring them, a couple at one meeting, 2 or 3 at the other meeting, or whatever. Or, if somebody, you look at the reports and you say, does he really need to come here because he's under budget? Things like that. I mean, they're salaried people. I mean, they got plenty of time to come in. They're all laughing.
Look at the three of us.
So, but yeah, I mean, we could probably do something like that. Why don't we put up some kind of a schedule? We'll start the end of the year. We'll start a little late for June now, I think.
Well, if we're going to do it quarterly, I think, and we'd have to
Let's
come up with some ideas, but perhaps a second meeting in July, because that
Yeah,
allows
that'd be nice.
finance to do all the transfers for fuel and make sure all those, that also gets, by that time, we've had our invoices for most of the previous month, especially when you look at our legal, and so we can do the second and have a report to you and see if it's a format that the board finds helpful.
Yeah, we'll plan on doing that, is that okay?
Sounds fair.
Anybody else got anything else?
So, we're gonna be looking at a report in July, or we're gonna have people to talk to?
Do you want to start with a report, or?
I would say, how long does it take to get the report out?
Well, if it's just budget to actuals, I think what we could do is, we could run that right out of the software, and then ask for each department head, if you've got some big variance that the board needs to know about, that would be a good time to do it. We can do that through the report.
And could we have the report, say, in the first week or so?
I think the only thing is we usually
July's
don't.
gonna be tough because.
Yeah, we don't usually get our attorneys, we usually don't make the adjustments, because again, DPW pays for all the fuel when it gets put in the tank, and then we start making adjustments as the different departments use it up. So, we can do it either way, as long as we just have those caveats of we haven't made those adjustments yet.
So what's gonna happen is we're gonna say, why is the fuel so hard? And it's gonna say,
Yeah, we can
we
explain that.
haven't,
one.
yeah,
Yep.
but it's gonna be every quarter, we're gonna be using the same excuse, because we probably won't all be divided by then, so
Yeah.
it could be the same excuse every month.
Yeah, if your preference is to have it for the first meeting, we can do that.
All right, let's do that. So, we'll get a report, and then you can look at it. I would do, what we used to do is, I used to look at it when we used to have paper copies, and I'd go through, highlight what I wanted to know. And then, when I got in front of, usually what it was the budget committee, those questions would come to the selectmen's reps that I will research it, and we let the budget committee know it before they goes out to in an email. That's how we've done it.
Just like to be ahead of.
Yeah, I understand.
I think, you can look at these reports, to your eyes crossed, but there's something, and I'm not looking for extra work, believe me, but there's something about all looking at it together and having different perspectives, and you catch things that, like you always catch things, I miss that, or this and that, and maybe once a year it might be, at halfway through, it would be a good exercise to do.
That's what we're gonna be
And-
doing. That's what we're gonna be doing, because we'll have June's report in July.
And
That'll
maybe,
be 6
maybe
months
have,
from now.
and maybe have the inspectors here, so that they can talk to us too. And then it just makes, it's just prettier that,
I guess that would depend on I don't know if you could bring them all in, because you,
yeah, maybe we need to look at them first, and then if we got enough questions, and
That's
like you
what I'm
say,
saying.
if somebody's behind, under budget on everything, we really need to talk to them.
well, you're gonna look at, you take a look at like Rick's lifeguards, right? Well, he hasn't spent anything. If you look at it, well, how come so you don't know, because he hasn't had to spend the money for that. And the same thing with your basketball programs and things like that. So, and it's all something we gotta look at. All right, so we'll plan on that, we'll get our report out, and then we'll go from there. How's that?
Works.
Okay. Anything else? Motion? Do we have a non-public?
I don't have any non-public this evening.
Well, we have a motion?
Motion to exit.
Or do you want to do, you usually have a second public
Oh, yeah, I'm
comment?
sorry. Anybody here for public? Seeing none? Move on now, Mark.
Motion to exit.
Motion to
Adjourn.
Adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Mark, seconded by Josh. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Motion carries.